Welcome to Paperback Perspectives, a podcast about books, where your hosts, Ryan, Kaylin, and Annette give you their perspectives on all things reading. Cozy up in your favorite book nook and let's dive in.
Welcome back to the Book Talk Hour.
Whoa.
That was a good intro. We're live right now, so that's good.
Oh, are we actually?
I just started it, yeah.
Welcome back.
Oh.
Back to
We're
the
trying
Paperback
trying something new this
Perspectives.
time.
What are we up to?
Hi, everyone. We're going to do a little mini episode.
So we will cut out the part where we talk about what we're reading and what we've read and just go straight into a segment where we each talk about some books related to a theme. We each picked a theme, and then we're going to talk about books we've read connected to that theme and maybe books we want to read connected to that theme.
And if you have a book that fits the theme perfectly and you're watching or listening, please share below.
You
That would be
share
fantastic.
on email. You could do it on Instagram through direct message, Twitter. You could do TikTok. There's no videos, but you
We're
can
not
still
there,
message
but
on
we'll-
TikTok.
Yep.
Or comment on YouTube too. So we're on all of those. All right.
All right.
So we all came up with a theme. And so with each theme, we all came up with book recommendations. And I think that we'll start with yours. No, Ryan's
That was Ryan's.
Ryan's was.
My theme was hope.
So books that center around hope. And we talked earlier and we took different approaches to it. Some of us were books that maybe others wouldn't interpret it as being about hope, but something in the character or something that we read gave us that feeling.
Or
And
there was
some of
something
us-
hopeful about the characters.
And some of us went
Yeah.
with more direct, like that was really what the book was about.
Yep.
So who would like to go first?
I will.
Go for it.
I need to look up the book first just so I can make sure I get the description correct. But because this is a book I haven't read, so that's why I need to look it up.
So this is your book you want to read.
Yes. So it is called Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi.
Nailed
Again, not totally sure that's how you say it, but
it. No, we nailed it.
so it is about the little question that they pose is what would you change if you could go back in time? And it's this little coffee cafe in an alley in Tokyo where they serve coffee, and they've been serving coffee for about 100 years. And it offers its customers a unique experience to travel back in time before the coffee gets cold. So they have to make it, in Before the Coffee Gets Cold, they meet 4 visitors, and each of them, we follow their story and what they do when they time travel, and all of them have to make it back to the coffee shop before the coffee gets cold.
Interesting.
One of them is they have to confront the man who left them. One receives a letter from their husband whose memory has been taken by early onset Alzheimer's. One is to see their sister one last time, and one is to meet the daughter they never got the chance to know.
Oh, wow.
And I've heard it's just a very, very uplifting, heartfelt, and kind of provides hope for where you're at in life and kind of looking back and living with no regrets kind of a thing. So I haven't read it, but I've heard really good things about it. So
That sounds very interesting.
yeah.
What was the name of it? Sorry.
Before the Coffee Gets Cold.
Okay.
Toshikazu Kawaguchi. It looks very good.
That sounds
And then
really interesting.
one that I haven't read, but it has kind of like a faith-based message to it, is Having a Mary Heart in a Martha World. So it's kind of feeding off of the story of Mary and Martha from the Bible. You have read this, right, Mom?
It sounds really, really familiar to
Yes.
me.
So it's kind of...
Tell me more about it. And I will tell you
let
if
you
I've
know in a
read
minute.
It is by Joanna
the
Weaver.
spot.
Joanna Weaver. And it's essentially looking at how to be, so the stories of Mary and Martha. So for Martha, she's a very loves Jesus and really wants to serve him, but she struggles with weariness, resentment, and feelings of inadequacy. And Mary longs to sit at the Lord's feet, but the daily demands of the busy world just won't leave her alone. And so basically this book is kind of saying how to have Mary's heart in a busybody world, Martha's world, and just kind of how to look at life where you're at now and have like not be so caught up in the everything that's going on and what's happening in the future, and just focus on now and like how to have peace with where you are now and hope for what's happening in the future.
I think it's on my
Interesting.
to be read list.
Okay, yeah. I have not read this either, but it's one I have. And I
It
wanna read
sounds really, really good.
Yeah. I know a lot of people use it for Bible study. So
That's
Yeah.
really interesting.
I feel like Michelle would really like that one.
Yeah, that sounds like a very much up her alley type
Yeah.
of book. Yeah.
So that's mine for hope. Those are my two for hope.
Did you have any that you've already read?
No, because I was going through my books, going through my past books, and was like, I do not read books about hope very often.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot. That wasn't a like
All of
judgmental
Galen
question.
books are depressing.
They're heavy, I guess, and dark. Actually, if you go to my story graph, it's a lot of dark. So I don't know what that says about me.
No,
That
so-
is very not your personality,
know.
which is very interesting because I
I
would say
know.
that's the opposite of your personality. Yeah. Do you want to go next, Ryan, or you want me to?
Yeah, I'll go next. The hope was the easiest category for me to find.
Because you came
Books
up
in.
with it.
I did come up with it, and then I was going through like the books that I've read. I was like, okay, there's kind of a commonality between all of these books. So the first one that I came up with right away was The Martian, because it's a story about an astronaut who is stuck on Mars all by himself, and he has to figure out a way to get home, and he just keeps getting hit over and over and over again with just horrible circumstances. And at the end of everything, he's just like, well, gotta keep going. Like, we gotta have hope. Like, gotta have faith. Like, we're just gonna keep on going. Gotta find a way to get home. And then I realized, like, other Andy Weir books, like Project Hail Mary, it's all about that. Like, the hope for the future, hope for humanity type of stuff. And so I thought that was really interesting. The one that I just finished, Elantris, huge message of hope in there. One of the main characters, without giving too much away, he kind of has it all. He's in this, like, highest station in life. Like, he's got all the power, all the money, and then it's all stripped away from him, and he's kind of outcast from society, and he could easily just wallow in self-pity, but he turns it around and he makes the best of his situation, and he turns it around for everyone else too, and he gives everyone else hope. And it's a phenomenal story arc with that character. Really one of the best
What was
characters.
Will you repeat the title?
Elantris by Brandon Sanderson.
Oh, the one. Okay.
Yep. One of the best character arcs in a single book that I've read, I want to say ever. Really, really interesting. Another one was The Giver, where
I
you-
contemplated that one.
Yeah, where you kind of you don't have to settle for the way that the world is. Like, there's hope for the future, and like, world is kind of sucky and boring, and you're stuck doing this, but you don't have to be. Like, there's hope. And then one that I haven't read before that I really, really want to, that pops up all the time, is a book called Station 11, where it's by Emily St. Mandel, maybe I'm getting that wrong, I don't know. But it's about like a post-pandemic world, and just like trying to keep going, make the world a better place, try to survive. And it's all about just, again, keep going forward, trying to figure out the best way you can do things. And yeah, Emily St. John Mandel is the author of that book. So it's been on my list forever. I really, really want to read it. She also wrote The Glass Hotel, Sea of Tranquility. So she's like a super popular author as well. But I think she did. Anyway, those are my hope books.
Nice.
All right. I went with one that is written for middle grades, kids, young adults, but adults would enjoy it too. It's a realistic fiction, I guess it would be referred to as, and it's called Amal Unbound by Aisha Saeed. And Amal is a 12-year-old girl who lives in Pakistan and loves learning and is super excited about her education, wants to grow up and be a teacher. And an incident happens in her village, which she is punished for by having to become a slave, indentured servant in the palace. And she finds hope and finds a way to find the best of the situation. And the summary from Storyboard says, Amal Unbound is an award-winning novel that tells the story of a young girl growing up in Pakistan. She loves learning and yearns to be a teacher when she grows up, but her dreams are threatened when she has an unfortunate altercation with the wealthy landlord of her village. She finds hope even in a new place and ways to keep her dreams alive. And it's a super good book in that it makes you realize our circumstance is not as tough as we might think it would be, and she finds hope in that. And it's a really neat story. And the one I want to read is one that Ryan has mentioned, and that is The Book Thief by Marcus Zuzak. And that came up on lists of books about hope when I was preparing for this.
I had a feeling that you were going to put that one, so I didn't put it on mine. I was looking at it and I was like, I really want to put it on there, but I'm like, I bet Mom's going to use it.
Interesting. All right. Our second topic was the one I came up with, and it was identity.
I think you should go first.
Theme number 2, identity. I should go first?
Yeah, go for
I
it.
chose for a book that I have read, The Book of Lost Names by Kristen Harmel. And this is also historical fiction, realistic fiction. It's based on real people and events, but then fictionalized for the book. And it's the story of World War II and people who worked to forge documents to help get people out. In particular, in the story, it's getting children out of Nazi situation in Europe. And it's so important to the person who's the central character that those kids don't lose their identity. So they're making forged documents for them to get them out. But she wants a way to preserve their true identity, because it's the idea of where you come from and who you are and how valuable that is. And so she creates this book of lost names. And the book goes back. It starts out in modern times, and the main character is she's semi-retired and working in a library, and hears about this book that has been found with this code that nobody knows what it is, but she knows what it is because she was part of creating it.
Oh, wow.
And then it goes back and tells her story. And
what was that one?
The Book of Lost Names by Kristen Harmel. It's such a good book, such a good story.
That sounds really good.
That sounds really good.
Yeah, highly recommend that one. And then the one that I want to read, and I was reading about books that are like, I was just searching for ones, and it's one that's been on my list for a long time, The Midnight Library by Matt Haig.
I have that book if you want to read it.
I do want to read it. And it starts out, between life and death there is a library.
Yep.
And about people discovering, it reminded me a lot of the one you talked about the coffee shop. Like in their life, they can undo things, or they can go back and find things, and how they do go about that is what it sounds like.
So I started it, and I started it when I was having like my anxiety and like working and stuff like that was like not going well. So I wasn't in the best place mentally. The beginning of the book is dark.
Oh, okay.
It's heavy right away. So I just could not push past that part of that book at that time. Now I think I'd be able to read it no problem. But just so don't think you're going into it getting like a nice like story about it gets heavy pretty quick. So just a little disclaimer about that. Like there's some pretty heavy content stuff there at the beginning.
Right.
But yeah. Go ahead.
I went a very different approach to identity. It is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. I don't think I've recommended this on the podcast yet. But so it is a fantasy book that has a very interesting magic system to it. So there is a deck of cards that each have different magical properties to them, and there's a different number of each set of cards. And so the more powerful ones, so if you can think of it like, there's only one of the most powerful one, two of the second most, three, and so on. And you can destroy them. But so anyways, there's this deck of cards, and that's where the magic is in this world. And one day, Elspeth touches one of the cards, and in this world, there is a mist that causes people to become infected. And when they become infected, they become magical without the cards. And it deteriorates them. So the magic kills them slowly. And if anybody is discovered to have magic, it is so taboo that they'll kill anyone who has it. So unless you're like wielding a card, if you have magic without the card, you die if you're discovered.
Wow.
One day, Elspeth touches one of the cards, and the card, she basically absorbs the card because she was infected by the mist, and her magic is that she absorbs any card she touches. And so one of the most powerful cards there are is the monster. And so she touched that card. And so one of the lines in the book is, a maiden must unleash the monster within to save her kingdom in this dark, lush, gothic fantasy debut. And then it's, Elspeth needs a monster. The monster might be her.
Ooh.
Oh.
And so she has this monster speaking to her in her head throughout the book, and it's like a battle internally of who is it, Elspeth, or is it the monster that's speaking and doing these actions. And so it's like a book about identity and trying to figure out like who is like speaking right now, who is like doing these actions, and it's really good. It's one of my favorite fantasy books. It's a duology. So there's Two Twisted Crowns is the second book.
Huh.
It's so good.
Yeah, you've mentioned that, you've recommended that to me before.
Yep. It is very, very good. Yeah, so I would recommend that one. That's because it's that battle of identity, and it's the main premise of the book, really. So there you go.
Nice. I kind of went a similar route as you for identity. Mine's also a fantasy book. It's Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson that I just finished. The main character, so like set up the world, there's like the rich nobility, and then there's everyone else pretty much, and everyone else is called the Ska, SKAA, and they're like indentured servant slaves basically, and they're treated like worse than dirt, and they have no rights, they can't really advance in life. And one of the few ways that you can kind of get by as a Ska, if you're like in the main city, is to be a thief. So she is a thief, and she has very little like magical ability. She doesn't really understand it. But her entire life, she's been abused and treated horribly by her older brother, and then other thieves in her like thief guild that she has. And she ends up getting out of that situation into another one where she's actually like treated like a person, treated with respect. And she is just struggling the whole time with like trusting people, figuring out like who is she, because part of it, like she has to kind of blend in with the nobility as part of it. And then so she has to think like, well, I don't belong here. I don't deserve this. I don't deserve these nice things. These people don't, like, I can't trust them and all that stuff. And so she's really trying to figure out her place in the world. And it was just really interesting because she's 16 in the story of the book. So it's very much that like growing up in that like phase of your life, like not really sure who you are, where you fit in kind of thing. Top it all off, there's like a tyrannical leader and there's magic and whatever. But it's really, really good. And then by the end of it, she starts to like come into herself a little bit, but she's still not 100% sure like who she is. She's starting to figure it out, but that's like where the second book kind of takes off. And it's just, yeah, all about like figuring out your own identity, who you are, where you fit in.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you want to give us your cozy reads that were hard to find? So I think it's interesting because I had a really hard time finding books about hope. Ryan had a really hard time finding cozy or comfort reads. And did you have any difficulty?
Nope.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
fine then. Some of us are just better than others. Yeah,
I think, you know what? I think I have the advantage that for school I read a lot of different kinds of books.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
That are, you know, like the Amal Unbound and things are
Yeah.
ones that would maybe pop up otherwise. But I
True.
get that advantage of that variety because I try to read those to fit in with different groups.
That's a good point. But yeah, I was going through all the books that I've read, and none of them are really like a cozy comfort book.
Which is our third theme, by the way. It's,
Yeah, cozy comfort.
Yeah.
Like, I just could not think of anything, and so I was like, well, what makes me feel comfortable and type of stuff, and I just went back to books that I read in like high school and like middle school. And so one of the main ones was Pendragon. That's a huge, it's a 10-book series. I love that series. It like just, it's a great place.
That's a good one to get like your kids into reading.
Yeah.
Like especially in that middle school.
Yeah, because there's like time travel. There's different like worlds and stuff, and like mysteries kind of thing. Yeah, it was really, really cool. Star Wars books. Any Star Wars book you give me, I'm just immediately like, that's my comfort zone. That's right where I'm meant to be. Yeah, any kind of like young adult type books too, where it's like it's an easy read.
Nostalgia factor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. It's anything along those lines, like, just fits in that like coziness for me, because
Yeah.
I'm not like, I don't want to say I'm not locked in on the book, but it's so casual.
Yeah.
And I can read it super quickly, and it's
It's like rewatching a TV series.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's picking up the book that you're comfortable in and
Yep.
you're just relaxing.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of my like cozy books. It's
Nice.
any book that I can like go back to and just like relax with. I'm not like on edge the whole time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What about you?
I did not have trouble finding cozy books because I like this genre
Yes.
of book, and I like to escape into a book that is cozy and comfortable. So I picked two that I think we've talked about on this show before on different episodes, but Midnight at the Blackbird Cafe by Heather Weber, which is just such a good little story of happiness. People are not happy through the whole book. There's people that have gone through hard times and are searching for happiness. And that one, and Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez is the other one I picked because they're just like, they just make your heart happy when you
So
read those
happy.
books, and they just have this good wholesomeness to them both.
So good.
So I went with those two, and then the one that I want to read is another one by Heather Weber that's been on my list, and it's At the Coffee Shop of Curiosities by Heather Weber. And
We have kind of a coffee shop theme.
I know,
going along
that is
here.
kind of funny. A mysterious letter, an offer taken, and the chance to move forward was the byline that was on there that just caught my attention. And then if you read the summary, it sounds really sweet and really cute. I can read if we want, but At the Coffee Shop of Curiosities by Heather Weber is the one that sounds good to me as a good cozy.
Sounds very cozy. If you add coffee shop, it just sounds cozy.
It
to
doesn't
me.
it?
Yeah, it really does.
I know. And it's the story of friendship between, it says she gets this job as a live-in caretaker for a peculiar old man and his cranky cat, and then befriends the man's daughter at the coffee shop, and like the story of their lives that play out.
That sounds
You
very
hit the
cute.
trifecta. You got cranky old man, coffee, cat.
I know.
Like, you've got the perfect, just
So,
cozy
there you
story
go.
right
Perfect
there.
storm.
There you go.
I had no problem with comfort and cozy. Beach Read by Emily Henry. I don't think I've talked about this one yet. It is just an adorable, it does get a little steamy, but mainly just adorable. It's two authors who end up living next to each other in neighboring beach houses, and both have writer's block. One is a romance writer and one is a kind of horror thriller writer. So very different. Neither of them have branched out in writing different genres, and they both have writer's block, so they say, let's switch and write each other's genre.
Cute.
And so they vow to, she will take him on, they take each other on like studying breaks or whatever. So she takes him out on dates, quote unquote dates, to teach him like what a romance would feel like and what like a romance novel would feel like. And he takes her on adventures that are like on interviews with like victims of crimes and stuff
I
like
thought
that.
you were just
So
gonna be like, to see a dead body.
I know they don't do that, but
This makes me think of the show Castle.
Yep.
yes,
Yeah.
So they switch
Love
genres.
that show.
And the little last line on the thing here, it says, everyone will finish a book and no one will fall in love. Really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So super cute and cozy. Then the second one, both of these are books I have read. I have talked about this one. It is Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldry. And again, coffee theme. So it is
Three. That's
I didn't
three
pick a
of us.
coffee
Yes,
book.
I know.
Get busy over there. Find a coffee book.
Yeah. It is about an orc who has been a bounty hunter her whole life. And so it's been all about bloodshed and gore and out on the road doing missions. And she is over it. She hates it. She doesn't like what she does. So she hangs up her sword. And one day when she was out on a bounty, she was in a gnomish land and they had this magical drink of coffee. And so her dream began of wanting to open a coffee shop. So she gets rid of all the gore
I'm
and
not gonna
bloodshed.
lie, I have that dream too.
I know,
We all
right?
do.
Yeah.
A bookstore with coffee.
And actually, the other book that's connected to this one, it's actually a prequel, is called Bookshops and Bone Dust. So she hangs up the sword and opens this coffee shop, and it's all about their journey of opening this business and meeting new friends and establishing herself in this new position.
I believe that's on my shelf right now, ready to go. I almost picked it up as my last when I was going to start a new
It's
book.
so cute. Yeah, it's cute and cozy. Then I have this beautiful magical book that is all three of these categories. It is hope, it is identity, it is comfort and cozy.
Is this book going to be on every podcast?
It is,
from
and get
now
used
on?
to it.
Hi guys, I got so excited about this book I kind of forgot to say the title. So it is The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune.
Do it. It's so good.
Tell us about the book, Kayla.
So it's hope in the terms of magical beings are outcasted. They are not accepted in society. Like, for example, these magical beings live on an island. They're not accepted into just the regular hustle and bustle of life. So by the end, though, they kind of get some change going, and these magical beings are more accepted into the world. And there's also hope with each character's development and where they go. Identity, the main character, Linus Baker, who goes to the island, has spent his whole life just stuck in this workflow, constantly just doing what the extremely upper management tells him to do. He doesn't really think for himself. He just does what management says, does anything not to get in trouble, and just goes by his day. And he doesn't realize it at the time, but realizes that this is really, like, he's really sad. Like, he's not getting joy at all from life. His life is colorless.
Did you say the very upper management?
Extremely upper management.
I love that
Extremely
phrase. Okay.
Yes. Which then he goes to the island and discovers Arthur Parnassus, who is the master of the house. And he finds that his life is full of color when he chooses to live his life how he wants to. And he finds his identity through Arthur and the children at the orphanage. And it's comfort and cozy because it's the cutest book I've ever read in my life. That is all.
So, on that note, any book or any theme that you recommend from now on, we would love to hear, and we can do more mini episodes, and Kaylin will pick this book, and the rest of us will come up with some other ones.
Yeah.
But if you do have a theme to suggest, please let us know. We'd like to do this kind of mini episode again.
Plus, it gives us excuses to read other books. We're like, oh, I should read this book because it's this theme. And then I guess we have to buy more books.
I know. It's okay. We can just get more bookshelves and we can expand. You know what? We really just keep passing them around. So it's working out just fine.
Yeah.
All right. Well, as always, thank you to Sam and to Lauren for their help with the podcast and keeping us going. And thanks to everybody who has been listening and watching. Kaylin, you have a shout out to our socials?
I kind of mentioned it before, but we have Instagram, paperback_perspectives, Twitter, paperback_pod, and YouTube, Paperback Perspectives. Email, like we said, if you have any recommendations, and if you wanted to be a guest on the podcast, we can coordinate things. We can coordinate with Zoom too, so you don't have to be in the local area to join us and chat about books. And TikTok is quiet, but it's paperback.pod. So you can join us there.
It wasn't quite a full chapter, so this was a paragraph.
Novella.
Oh, a novella.
Ooh, there we
and
go.
until the next chapter,
Until the next chapter.
Until the next chapter.
this is Paperback Perspectives.